welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
It's the last Friday of July, which means it's time for another Batman breakdown, where we break down the next live-action Batman movie in the calendar, and we are up to our fourth one, which means now it's time for us to talk about Batman Forever, which came out in the year 1995, starring Val Kilmer, Nicole Kidman, Chris O'Donnell, Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey, directed by Joel Schumacher, who replaced Tim Burton. This is the first live action Batman movie I saw in theaters. I had seen Mask of the Phantasm, but the other two had come out. I was too young to see the other two when they came out. So once again, just emphasizing the fact that I'm younger than Matthew.
Much younger than Matthew.
It's not that young. But before we get into that, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. July's been an interesting month. Had a decent couple days out of town that was cool. But other than that, it just seems to be kind of just balls to the wall, jumping from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. And it's just like, man, I hope August is at least 3 or 4 days of chill, but that does not seem to be what's going to happen.
We could use a mental health day is what we're getting at. So it's been a busy month, but we're here. And I rewatched this movie just a couple days ago in preparation for talking about it, because it occurred to me, Matt, I don't think I had seen this movie, if I'm being honest with myself, in probably 20 years.
Okay.
Because I saw it in theaters, and I was a kid when in 95, I was 6 years old. So saw it in theaters, and at 6 years old, if it's got Batman in it, I'm into it.
Yeah,
it does. I don't have a concept of what a good or bad movie is. So loved it. Mom bought me the VHS, watched it constantly. But once Batman and Robin came out, I watched that one all the time because I was 8 when that movie came out, or 8 or 9. But then honestly, once Batman Begins comes out in 2005, what reason is there to ever watch any other Batman movie once Batman Begins comes out? So it's probably, and I was 14, 15 when Batman Begins came out. So it's been 20 years probably conservatively since I've seen Batman Forever. What about you?
I mean, I think people who've listened to this thing and know that I actually have some ridiculous love of this film. So
you enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I mean, parts of it. So I want to say, so I had to watch it by the previous podcast, Fanboy Junction. And that was probably 3 years ago from today ish. And then before that, I think I rented it from the library one time just to kind of check it out of nowhere, and watched it. And that was probably 2 or 3 years before then. So I think every so often I've watched this movie. I mean, I'm like you. Once Batman Begins comes out and those movies come out, there really isn't a reason to visit these movies. But there are parts of this movie that I really enjoy that I will always kind of go back to. But as far as front to back, it's been, like I said, I watched it the other day, forgetting we were doing this, but just watching it to watch it. Probably halfway through it. I don't mind it, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the greatest Batman movie ever. But no, I like I said, I think this is one of the ones I owned on VHS up until Batman Begins came out. This is the reason I never watched the Keaton ones again. I would watch this one ever so often. So until then, I would watch it every so often. But no, it'd been several years before 8 years ago that I think I had watched it.
Yeah, so it was interesting because when I really think about it, if I was a kid the last time I saw this thing, so it was interesting to watch it as an adult where I could fully comprehend all the dialogue and the story. Because as a kid, when you're watching it, you're just like, cool, yeah, they're saying words. When do we get to the fighting? As a kid, I'm just that young, I'm not absorbing the movie like I am as an adult. So getting to actually sit and pay attention and actually absorb everything that's being said. I can say that watching this at 34 years old, I have more appreciation for it than I did a week ago.
Yeah.
It's still not cracking my top 10, uh, but it's better than I had given it credit for a long time. There's some stuff in this one I genuinely really like. There's some stuff that still sucks pretty hard, but it's definitely more of a mixed bag than just a genuine dislike, which for me now, which I think is counts as an improvement.
Yeah, it's the thing you and I think I've discussed before, and I will say ad nauseum is like everything Val Kilmer and Batman in this movie is great.
Yeah,
The rest of the movie is kind of blah or
yeah.
crap.
And anything related to Val Kilmer in this movie is is excellent. Everything else you kind of have to cherry pick what you do and don't like, because there are times with Tommy Lee Jones on screen that I am rolling my eyes hard. There are other times where I am super into what he's doing. Um, Jim Carrey, even there, it just there's honestly there's only one person in this movie that I genuinely do not like, and that's Nicole Kidman. And I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I love Nicole Kidman, just not in this movie. And it's not her, it's what they gave her to work with. The writing on Dr. Meridian is appalling. Um and I just her whole character just does not work for me at all.
Yeah. I don't mind her so much, but she is definitely like if you're looking for a progressive female character, this
She
is
ain't
not
it.
she definitely does not pass the Bechdel test.
No. Her character is so it like she's just there to be horny for Batman. That's literally her entire reason for existence in this movie. And it's not good either. It's not even funny. It's just awkward.
It's odd. Like it doesn't I don't mind it, but that's also one of those things. Like I think people, and I've said this before, like you can watch a movie and go like, it doesn't bother me. I have fun with it, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong when you go at her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think her and Val Kilmer work well together. Do they have chemistry beyond being actors who are playing love interests? I don't know,
No.
but
No, I can answer that question for you.
yeah,
They have no well, especially because we're coming off of Batman Returns, where Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer had tangible on-screen chemistry.
yes.
You then go to Val Kilmer and Nicole Kidman, who have none. It's very jarring.
It's well, and I think it's also one of those. This is where, like, looking at Joel Schumacher's um, filmography. There's a lot of really good films here.
Oh, yeah. People like talk when they talk about Joel Schumacher, they typically only talk about 3 movies, and that's Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and The Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah,
And
but
because those
like
are 3 objectively bad movies, but he has made some incredible films.
look, around the Batman movies, he makes The Client, A Time to Kill, and 8 millimeter.
Yeah.
I didn't mind The Client. I thought 8 millimeter was intense but very trendy. But no, I mean, I think like this is where he took a job and he was
Well, but also remember he also did The Lost Boys and St. Elmo's Fire
yes.
and in the number 23, which I actually really like.
I've never seen it. But no, I think my point is that like sometimes you take a job as a director and the company tells you what to do and you do it. And when you,
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch the behind the scenes or the making of for Batman Forever, and he talks
No.
about like they're like, we want you to soft reboot it. We want to make sure this thing's for toys. We want you to do not anything Tim Burton did in the previous one. So like
Yeah.
when I look at that, I go, yeah, that's what he did. Like he understood the assignment and he did it. Now, whether you are a huge film, you know, not being the biggest Tim Burton directing Batman fan, I didn't miss any of that, especially Batman Returns, which I will definitely say is down there with Batman
Oof.
versus Superman. Um,
Hush. Quiet you.
but no, I think like, look, is the neon weird? Yes.
Yeah.
Is Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones overacting like a mofo? Yes. But there's a movie that Val Kilmer and Joe Schumacher are making that we will never see. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You can tell. I'm wondering how much of this movie was rewritten before they shot it and how much of it was reshot after the fact. Because I genuinely feel like there are pieces of a not a great movie, but a good movie in here. And I'm wondering if because we've heard and we should might as well let's get this out of the way now at the top. I'm aware there's something called a Schumacher cut out there. Kevin Smith, I guess, did some kind of screening event for whatever it is. Cool. Um, Everything that Matt and I have read on it is just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of a different movie, but we're not talking about like Snyder cut levels of difference here. We're not talking about Watchmen or BVS or Justice League levels of director's cuts. Like they were like, yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
it's kind of a longer, slightly better version of the same movie.
I think Mike Vogel from the Geek Buddy said it best. Like, cool. Are Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones still the Riddler and Two Face? But the
Yeah.
movie's not going to be any better.
Yeah, that doesn't fix some of the problems. Like just cool, you have longer Batman scenes. I mean, I'm into that. Doesn't take away from the things that don't work.
Yeah.
So we're not going to really worry about it, but just to acknowledge that there is the Schumacher cut out there. But yeah, every time there was a Batman scene, I was just like, I feel like I'm watching a different movie, a better movie
Yes.
than everything else going on. Let's break this down like we usually do. So let's talk production design first,
Sure.
and just kind of get around that because like you mentioned, like they try to do everything as different from Tim Burton as possible, and I think specifically from the first Batman because Gotham City in Batman Returns is almost non-existent other than that one town square that everybody hangs out in that's very well lit no matter what time of day it is. Uh, different episode, Mike. Well, a lot of this Gotham is the cityscapes are pretty bad early 90s CGI.
Yes.
Uh, eh, and I'm talking like Power Rangers, the movie bad. It's not great. But the times where we are on the actual city, yeah, a lot of neon, a lot of colors, but it does feel like an actual city, which is an improvement over Batman Returns.
Yes. It's a different Gotham. And the thing of it is I think we all now, and I say we all, you all, since it's not me, have the luxury of watching these movies not being around when they came out. Like when you watch
I was there when I saw it in theaters.
no, 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 hold on, just wait. When you watch Batman and Batman Returns, like
Yeah.
that's what the comic looks like. When you get to Batman
Yes.
Forever, this is what the world and comics are going to. Now, did he go now I admittedly went a little far with the neon, but that was becoming a thing. The painting of the faces, the
Yeah.
rave scene. Like the thing that kind of cracks me up is you make the joke about how sexualized Nicole Kidman's character, Chase Meridian, is like if you really look at take a moment, if you look, do your homework on who Joel Schumacher is and
Yeah.
who some of the people he was hanging out with. Like this entire movie is just let's overly sexualize Batman as far as we can without anybody noticing, and somehow the nipples got through. So
Yeah, I've read his excuse for the design for the nipples and the cod pieces in these two movies. I don't totally buy it, but his reasoning is he wanted them to look like Greek god statues, and he wanted it, and I'm like, sure,
he wanted them to be
sure,
sexy, and I'm not. It doesn't work. The nipple thing doesn't work as far as making them sexy. I'm not gonna
it was a
even.
choice.
It was a choice. It
But I also feel like cool. You tried it in Forever, it didn't work. You don't then jump to well, let's do it again.
yes.
Clear. We just need to do it again. It's like no. This didn't work. Uh, Move on.
Well,
Anyway,
and what made me laugh about this is I can remember back in this time in comic books, you start getting the all the veins popping out on muscles in the costumes, and
vascular.
yeah, but it shows through the costume, but their nipples don't show. And it's like for him, he was like, "Well, let's show the nipples, but not the veins." I don't know.
I know. It's weird. It's a thing. Apparently Val Kilmer's bat suit was so heavy that when they shot his first fight scene, he like by like the number of takes they did and all that, he lost like 5 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. No, those
Uh
those suits are not. I've worn similar stuff through
yeah,
cosplay, and they did what they thought. They were trying not to, we talked about in the Batman run that they're
yeah,
continuing on. They lean the suit out so he actually can be athletic and do cool fight scenes, which,
yeah.
if we're when we get there, we'll get there. But I think that's the thing is I think this movie looks like a 90s movie. It is all the things
Oh
of a
yeah,
90s movie. So I think comparing it to Batman Returns and Batman are kind of weird because that's where everything's going. At the same
yeah.
time, like I was more than happy to leave that nonsense behind and embrace this film because like I just didn't buy into a lot of what they were doing with the previous films. But
Sure.
but I do have to say, like, this is the beginning of CGI. There's a couple of CGI stuntmen, quote unquote, on Batmans that are weird.
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
it's actually Batman and actually stunt guys and actually things, it's perfect.
Yeah, when this because this movie doesn't have a ton. The most of the CGI in this movie is in the cityscape shots, and that's when it looks rough. Everything else is as practical as you can be, and I think they do a decent job with the practical stuff on this.
Yes.
The explosion work is real good. The stunt work is fantastic. Um, I look at one point we have a bunch of Two-Face thugs chasing this Batmobile in a car chase. I buy it a hell of a lot more than I do the car chases in the Tim Burton movies. And I like the first Batman just fine. That's my favorite Batmobile. I buy the car chase in this movie a lot more.
Yeah. They had
I
room to
really do.
move. That car actually seem as plastic as it seems, it can
Yeah.
actually move.
Yeah, that I will say the and I'm on record. I don't like this Batmobile, but like the body casing they were using for the driving stunts was clearly made out of like cheap Rubbermaid plastic and styrofoam. I mean, it was not well put together, but it was able to move. And honestly, that was probably so that they could do movements. But yeah, the way that those chase scenes were shot made it like this Batmobile could haul ass.
Yeah.
Um, I how, hmm, how do you feel about the Batmobile driving up the side of the wall?
At that point in that movie, sure.
It's like, you know what? This is not the weirdest thing I've seen so far. Um,
I think this is where I think this is another one of those things that Warner Brothers is like, you have to kick up the action tenfold.
yeah.
And he was like, "What if the Batmobile drives up the wall?" And someone went, "Sure."
It's it's a weird kind of homage to the 60s Batman because Batman and Robin would always climb the sides of walls,
Yes.
you know. So and you see that in all these movies. All of the Tim Burton and Schumacher films, you occasionally see weird homages to the Adam West, Burt Ward Batman. We get another one later in this movie we'll talk about in a sec. Um, so like because they make a point of showing the windows going sideways because
Yeah.
that's how they would shoot it. I was like, I think I get what this scene is trying to be. Does it work? Again, it's not the weirdest thing in the movie at this point. So,
Look, if it hadn't had quote unquote science behind it and end with that fantastic shot of the car driving up and the explosion happening behind him, I probably been like, this is kind of dumb. But when that shot happens, I'm
uh,
like, look at Batman go defying physics.
but also something to think about. All those guys are dead. All those guys are dead. All those
By
Two-Face thugs are dead.
their own
And
problem.
and let's be honest, all those cars exploding at once, there are just regular ass people in those apartments that are dead. There is a lot of dead people in that chase sequence. A lot of dead people.
A collateral damage happens.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
this is
Well,
also one of those movies where, like, yeah, I want to say he kills at least
kills some
10,
folks.
10
Well,
thugs
well,
and Two
he
Face.
I was gonna say he kills one person for sure. We'll
Yes,
get to that in a little bit in a little while. Um, but to talk about the neon thing, like specifically, why why on the Tommy guns? Why did we need the neon on the Tommy gun drums?
that's where it went too far.
That's so we even as a kid, I remember thinking that's weird. Why would I just it just it's things like that where it's like these are the times where it's little things, but there's so many little things that it starts to kind of add up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what that does is you have to remember that this is also a time when, like, guns can't be in cartoons, guns can't
Yeah,
be in things, so you have to make them play. That's why when you go back and watch the GI Joe movies, they all have the same, or the GI Joe cartoon, they all have the same rifle, and they shoot blue and red lasers.
yeah,
They're not shooting actual guns. So I think part of keeping that R rating off of this film is you
yeah.
do random things like, how do I make a gun look more fun and toy? You put neon on it. Does it look
Yeah.
ridiculous? Yes. But if it keeps that the violence and the darkness away, and I think that's ultimately what this entire film is not dark.
It's
Not
also kind of a it's kind of a weird way to it's like well we don't want to give kids the idea that gun violence is okay. So let's make the guns look like toys. That
Yeah. I'm not saying it was a good decision. Now,
we were dumb in the 90s, man. We were stupid.
I mean, why did they get rid of violence but kick up the sexuality and have this girl be a horn dog? Who knows?
I don't know. And then Hollywood went the other direction in the 2000s. But that's again, it's another we'll get to that when we get to the Nolan films, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um okay, so production design wise, there's not a whole lot to say other than just like, yeah, it's just the opposite of everything Tim Burton was doing.
yeah,
Let's talk casting. Because I think the casting of this movie is where you hit most of the things people have issues with
sure.
is who's playing who in this. Let's say right now, we know how I feel about Nicole Kidman in this. I don't like her character. I don't like the way her character is written. I think Nicole Kidman does a good job selling what they're selling, but let's be honest. This movie came out when I was 6 years old. This movie awakened some things in 6-year-old Mike. With Nicole Kidman, watching it as an adult, I'm just like, this is all. It doesn't even make sense. She's a criminal pathologist or psychologist or whatever. Why would she be at a active crime scene? There's no reason for her to be. There's no way she would be there. There's no way she would be there.
I think she's, yeah, there's definitely,
Especially not at the invitation of the commissioner.
yeah, there's, this is one of those times where I look at, like, what did you want to do that you had to do this? Like, as far as
Yeah.
the actress, like, what is, like,
What role did you really want that you did this to
yeah,
like? Because I'm looking at her filmography right now. I'm pulling it up anyway. Because I'm curious because this is about the time where Nicole Kidman is really starting to hit it big. Because so let's see here, 95. She had already done Far and Away with Tom Cruise, which was okay. Um, but Eyes Wide Shut isn't for another 4 years. Um,
yeah,
Practical Magic's a few years later.
she is known, but she is not a commodity yet. Like, that's kind
Yeah,
of what you have to look at, is like,
and there's nothing around here in particular that is like that I'm looking at as like, oh, that's the thing that put her over. Because like she does the Peacemaker with George Clooney a few years later, but that wasn't like a massive hit. The next like really big hit that I'm noticing is probably either Practical Magic or Eyes Wide Shut, because those were both fairly popular movies when they came out. Um,
yeah, because if
it,
you look at her stuff from this time, like, she's just the the love interest for
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff. Days of Thunder, Far and
She's
Away, Malice,
yeah.
Billy Bathgate. Like she's just kind of My Life, which is a very good movie.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a very good movie.
Heartbreaking, but very good movie. But
Yeah.
it's like To Die For is what explodes her, which is comes out at the
Is it the one with
same.
her and Joaquin Phoenix?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
movie that changes her career, and
Yeah.
she does it the same year as Batman Forever. So I think after that is when she just starts getting into becoming the actress we know now. But at the time,
Yeah.
this was the role she was getting, and I think like she
Yeah.
does this so she can get the other thing. But it's
Because 6 years later she does Moulin Rouge, and that's where she
skyrockets.
skyrockets. I love Moulin Rouge as a musical guy. I love I'm a musical theater kid. I love Moulin
I
Rouge.
hate that movie, but I'll tell you later why.
That's fine. Well, and then she also does The Others right after that, which The Others is interesting. Um,
Yeah. So like 2 or 3
but
years
yeah,
after she does this movie is when she climbs up to becoming
yeah,
um pardon me, who she is now. So I think that's where you get that whole like, hey, she probably got a lot of money to be in this movie and
yeah,
got put in the right positions to do more of what she wanted. But you're right. Like I'm not going to say she's fantastic and just a great role. She's just this damsel in distress love interest, and they, as I said earlier, this whole movie's about sex, and they certainly make sure she's part of that equation.
it's interesting too when you look at like who they were looking at for this role before it went to her. Because originally they, when it was still going to be Michael Keaton, they had cast Renee Russo. Um, and I'm trying to look at these actresses I'm going to list in the role of Chase Meridian, and I don't know if any of them would have necessarily worked because you also had here were the top names they were looking at: Sandra Bullock, Robin Wright, Jean Triplehorn, and Linda Hamilton.
It's weird to me to think like all of those people would have worked very well with Michael Keaton.
Would have worked amazing with Michael Keaton
But then
and Renee Russo as well.
yeah, Renee
They
Russo works great with everybody, but let's not get onto that right now.
she's incredible. All of these actresses are fantastic in their own right, even Nicole Kidman as well. But when you think about what this character is, the psychiatrist that's super horny for Batman,
Yeah,
there's not a name on this list that makes me go, "Oh yeah." Especially Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton is beautiful. She's the action star, badass,
yeah,
like get sweaty, get dirty, and break some heads. Not I'm gonna go turn on the I'm gonna put on a get naked, wear a white silk sheet, and drag it to my balcony to make out with Batman. Like it's just it really makes me wonder how this character was written before you know what I mean. Like I
yes.
don't know, it's weird, it's weird.
And it's like, well, let's get to that cast. I think casting Jim Carrey alters this film completely.
Yeah. Because and it's one of those, I get why they cast Jim Carrey. This is when Jim Carrey is at his peak.
Yes.
I mean, he's doing Ace Ventura and Cable Guy, and he's doing the other Ace Ventura, and he's doing movie a Dumb and Dumber. I mean, this is when he is putting out a couple movies a year, and they're all huge comedic, just
Blockbusters at the
bombshells.
time.
Yeah, he was the biggest name in comedy at the time.
Yeah.
So, because I think because we're only a couple of years away from him doing the Grinch, for crying out loud. So it's him getting picked for this. I mean, makes sense. It's just not good.
Yeah. It's you get into the money making machine of Batman becoming the cash cow of Warner Brothers, and the ingredients for that are all in what they're casting here. Like Val
Yeah.
Kilmer's, like he's a big name at this point. He's this is after Tombstone. This is after this is
After after Top Gun, after The Client, I mean, he's
yeah, he's on the rise with a lot of this stuff.
yeah.
Um I
He does The Saint after this.
correct, correct. But no, I think like yeah, Nicole Kidman's an odd choice. She does what she's supposed to. It's just not something that ages very well.
It's interesting too because they took Renee Russo out because they felt that she was too old for Val Kilmer. Keep in mind, she was only 6 years older than him at the time. So instead, they cast Nicole Kidman, who is 8 years younger than Val Kilmer. It's
Val
weird.
Kilmer
I don't.
plays young. That's all it is.
He does. Well,
At
I
the
mean,
time.
up
At the
yeah, at
time.
the time he did. Well, with as far as Jim Carrey too, here's some of the names they looked at for Edward Nygma, and these names are all over the place. Okay, they looked at Brad Dourif, who was actually Tim Burton's original pick for the Joker. Um, Kelsey Grammer, Mickey Dolenz, Matthew Broderick, Phil Hartman, and Steve Martin all were looked at for playing Edward Nygma.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how I feel about any of those names.
Steve
If
Martin
I'm
can do no wrong, sir. So let's just say that.
that goes without question. But would it have made this movie better? I don't know.
He wouldn't have
I
gone nuts,
genuinely
but who
don't
knows?
know. It would have been an acid trip and a half. I think that so I know that the Riddler was a Schumacher add-on. This was originally just, but when Tim Burton was doing this movie, it was just supposed to be Two-Face.
Okay.
Riddler was a Schumacher add-on to up the silliness, basically, to make Warner Brothers happy. So it just, yeah, it's clear to me that Riddler was never part of their plan. So they were just looking at, well, who's popular in comedy right now? Well, Kelsey Grammer's crushing it on Frasier. Matthew Broderick is, that's Ferris Bueller. Let's get him. Steve Martin, Phil Hartman is the king of SNL at this point. They were just looking for somebody who was funny.
Yeah. And they pull in
Which,
Jim Carrey, who's bringing in big numbers.
yeah,
Give him a character that he probably shouldn't have been. I think your idea that you texted the other day would have been better, considering
he should
everything
have
he's
been the
doing.
Mad Hatter. He should have been the Mad Hatter. Everything about the Riddler's plot with mind control and mind manipulation, it screams Mad Hatter. And frankly, the characterization of Edward Nygma feels more like a Mad Hatter
Yeah.
in the way it's portrayed. If he had just been the Mad Hatter, I honestly feel like that fixes a lot of this movie's tone issue, or at least it makes the tone make sense.
Yeah.
Because it really feels like Jim Carrey was trying to do his own take on Frank Gorshin's Riddler, and it just wasn't it.
Yeah.
I think now I think we'd be remiss if we didn't address the Robin Williams controversy with this.
Go ahead.
Um, so for those who don't know, I mean, it's been a long-standing rumor in Hollywood that Robin Williams was originally supposed to play the Riddler in this, which is half true. So Robin Williams has a long tried history with when it comes to Batman stuff. So the way that Tim Burton got Jack Nicholson to sign on to be the Joker was, I guess, he told them that they were considering Robin Williams for it, and that's what got Jack Nicholson to want to take it. That
Mm-hmm.
is actually not true. They were never considering Robin Williams. They just told Jack Nicholson that.
Correct.
They reached out to Robin Williams about playing the Riddler, but I guess he had found out that they had used his name as leverage to get Jack Nicholson, who's a friend of his, and he didn't like that. So he told them, no, I don't like the way that you guys have manipulated people using my name. I'm not interested. So that's the story behind Robin Williams possibly playing Riddler. He was never actually cast. He was offered the role, but he turned them down because, they'd kind of used his name for their own benefit. He would actually be offered, and then we'll get more into this when we talk about Dark Knight Rises, but he was also supposed to be the villain of the third Nolan movie, but that's another story for when we get to that movie. They also considered well, let's talk about Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face here.
Okay.
There are times in this movie I really like Tommy Lee Jones as Harvey Dent Two-Face. When he gets dark, when it gets sinister, when it gets genuinely creepy and evil, I'm in. It's
When
honestly,
he's not trying to match Jim Carrey's zaniness,
yeah.
he's great. He's like, it's solid. Like I'm there.
once Jim Carrey enters the movie, once the plot gets started with this movie is where it starts to fall apart. Because you and I have said on other shows, and we haven't said it yet this show, and I'm surprised. The first like 15 minutes of this movie slap.
Yeah.
They
The
are
most Batman of any
so
live
good.
action Batman
Oh,
movies. Him
the
doing all the
opening
things.
that opening sequence feels like it's right out of the Bruce Timm animated series from the 90s. It's so good. It's excellent. I am enjoying Two-Face at that point. But it's immediately after that scene is where the plot kicks in, because that's where we go to meet Edward Nigma and all that, and then that's where things start to get messy. But that Tommy Lee Jones and Val Kilmer at times feel like they're in a different movie, and I think this is why I think that when it comes to that whole Schumacher cut thing, I feel like they shot the movie they wanted and then had to go back and reshoot. It doesn't feel like a rewrite situation. It feels like a reshoot
Or like
situation.
halfway through the movie, they pick
Yeah,
up Jim Carrey to be the Riddler and they film his stuff.
maybe.
Well, it happens. I mean, look at
It
what's it?
does happen.
Look at the first X-Men movie. They were 8 weeks into filming before they cast Hugh Jackman.
Well, that also it happened with the Amazing Spider-Man 2. There was a whole subplot with Mary Jane Watson in that movie, and then they went back and redid that they'd shot scenes for.
Yeah, they got rid
They
of
had
it.
somebody cast and everything, and then they decided to push her stuff into the third movie, and they went back and reshot and cut out all her stuff, and then she dropped out, and then the movie wasn't good, so it doesn't matter. Um, I'm into Tommy Lee Jones a fair amount in this movie. You're right. It's when he's on screen acting against Jim Carrey, and it's famously known those two didn't like each other. Um, that it gets not problematic, but just hard to watch.
Yeah, it just gets ridiculous. You get two Jokers. You don't get a Two Face and a Riddler. You get two
Get too
Jokers, and it gets a bit much, and it gets a bit like I'm just don't want to watch this. I don't want to see this. This isn't what I'm here for.
no.
Um,
I like the duality of Two Face. That's why people like Two Face so much, and that's why Tommy Lee Jones took the roles. I guess his son like he loves Two Face, and so that's why he took it. Do you know who other than Billy D. Williams? Do you know who else was up for the role of Two Face?
I don't.
Al Pacino, Clint Eastwood, Martin Sheen, and Robert De Niro.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the names they looked at. So originally it was going to go to Billy D because Billy D actually had it in his contract that if they used Two Face in this film series, they would use him. But he was so not on board with the script. He's like, "Well, I don't want to be in this movie." And they said, "Well, we want to do Two Face." He's like, "Well, you can't do it without me." And so rather than just write a different villain, they paid Billy D a shitload of money to buy him out of his contract.
Yep.
But yeah, they looked at Pacino, Eastwood, Sheen, and De Niro. Honestly, of that list of names, I think Tommy Lee Jones was probably the best one because I think he would have. I think he did the most with what he had. I don't know. I don't know about any of those other ones, especially when you think about going up against Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, thinking about it in 2023 eyes, maybe De Niro or Pacino. But at that time in the 90s, in 95, no, absolutely not.
No.
Tommy Lee Jones can be funny. Tommy Lee Jones can be a good straight man in a comedy.
Dude, even Men in Black.
Look at Men in Black. Yeah, I say look at Men in Black. Like it's just yeah. I think his Two-Face stuff would work a lot better on its own. It's having the Riddler in there, and which creates that uneven tone, is where it gets hit. Um, Robin, you know, Chris Chris O'Donnell as Robin in this movie is it's fine. It's honestly he's better in this than he is in Batman and Robin. Is about all I can say.
I mean, I like I think you either make him the motorcycle guy or make him the earring guy. Don't do both.
Yeah.
I think he's solid in the role. I think that getting somebody to be the Robin next to Michael Keaton, he's perfect for that. Even more so with Val Kilmer because Val Kilmer's a bigger
Yeah.
guy. I just think it's I think we talked about it on the phone is like they never establish how old he really is. So
No.
if he's in high
The clo
school,
the closest they get is when Val Kilmer's is when Bruce says, "How about Dick Grayson college students?" Like, okay, so he's either a freshman in college or about to go to college,
yeah.
is what it seems like.
So I think that it's odd that you don't specify that, and I know they don't want to per se, but it's like, then why does he stay with the Wayne? Like, why is he invited by? Like, there's something that's missing in this movie that
Yeah.
explains, like, you know, I don't know if it's even interesting, but just have someone like, with his parents gone, he doesn't want to go on he doesn't want to continue with the circus.
Right.
And then Bruce Wayne say, look, I'll take him in, let him stay with me for, like, there's a little more.
There's a scene in between that needed to
Yeah,
happen.
just something that gives a little
Uh,
more as to why he ends up there. But then once he's there, like, it's fine.
yeah.
The laundry thing is stupid as crap.
Oh, it's so du it's even I remember as a six-year-old, I was like, "That was stupid."
Yeah.
It's a dumb sequence. I get why
But
it's there,
like,
but it's still bad.
but given the whole, like, he's not a little stupid kid, or that he's like, no, something must be behind there. And then when he steals the Batmobile and fights all those guys, it's dumb, but at the same time, like, at least we're seeing, like, this isn't some dude who's just an idiot who can't do, like, he's physical, he can do the things. I mean, I don't know if he should still have been Robin instantaneously, but I think that it does kind of show he's more than just this acrobat punk who can do nothing, which I thought was, I had fun with that. I'll take that, especially because that's Don the Dragon Wilson that he fights at the get. So
Yeah, it's true. I all the stuff in the middle, like all the stuff with his parents getting killed and him going to live with Bruce, other than just eating just that little bit of plot establishment is fine. And kind of like where he ends up at the end is fine. It's all the stuff in the middle with him that I don't like because it's so uneven and unclear what's going on. Like he goes from just being just a weird kind of moody teenager who's feeling guilty about his parents dying to I'm going to track down Harvey Dent and kill him myself and I'm going to work with Batman to do it. It's like the motivation goes back and forth and there's no time to see that anger grow. It's just suddenly he's just I it's one of those like if they had put another 20 minutes in this movie, I'm not saying the movie isn't long enough, but I just feel like there should have been there's like 20 minutes of character development that Dick Grayson needs in this movie that's just kind of missing.
and that's
Uh
allegedly in all of these deleted scenes.
yeah. So that's kind of where that's where I'm missing out as far as this movie goes with Robin is just like I just wanted more of the development of the character of Robin because he really doesn't
No,
have any.
he doesn't.
He has no character development in this movie.
And I think
Uh,
that, like, yeah, I would have much rather seen more of the scenes between the two of them instead of the scenes with Two Face and Riddler.
1,000%. Because as good a job as Val Kilmer is doing in this movie, and as doing his best with what he's got that Chris O'Donnell is doing, I wanted to see more scenes of the two of them because there's a lot of Dick Grayson and Alfred in this movie.
Yeah.
And I actually but and I enjoy those, but that's mostly because you've got Michael Goff as Alfred, and Michael Goff as Alfred is the gold standard.
Yes.
Um, so those scenes, like that scene where when Dick first moves in and Alfred's helping him put his clothes away, and he's talking about the Robin on his motorcycle helmet. Love that scene. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. More of that, please.
Yes.
That was such a good scene. Um, but I just want more. It's just not enough of it. Is the problem. Do you know who else was considered for the role of Robin other than before Chris O'Donnell?
Leonardo DiCaprio was.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, so originally Marlon Wayans had been cast for Batman Returns, but that got cut. We talked about that last time. Leonardo DiCaprio was the big one they were considering, but I guess he met Joel Schumacher and said absolutely not. He did not like Joel Schumacher. Did not want to work with him. Some other names they considered: Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Mark Wahlberg, Michael Worth, Danny Dyer, Toby Stevens, Ewan McGregor, Jude Law, Alan Cumming, Christian Bale, and Scott Speedman.
Sure.
I mean, those are all age appropriate
At the time.
at the time. I mean, knowing what I know about them now, I mean, I love Ewan McGregor
Yeah.
as an actor. I mean, but again, it's hard for me to really, because this is not my preferred take on Robin. This is I have problems with the way Robin's executed in this movie, so it's hard for me to say that any of them would have done a better job because they all would have been handed the same script. And I don't like the script that Robin got in this movie, so I can't really say whether or not any of them would have done better. Just different, I guess. This would have been a different
It would have
approach.
been
But
different.
yeah.
No, I like I don't have a problem with this casting. I have a problem with what ends up on the floor in lieu of crap that is stupid.
Yeah.
And that's where like, dude, this like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he does that whole like, how about Dick Grayson, color suited? You can't stop me. And Val Kilmer stands up. And he's like, I could
I could
stop you.
stop you.
And even Dick Grayson's like, yeah, well, I'm not going to stop. And I love
Yeah.
that moment because like for me, and I'm not saying Val Kilmer is some super intimidating dude, but there's nothing in me that ever believes Michael Keaton ever could be Batman. And so I just like that there's some moments every so often that Val Kilmer would do something like, oh yeah, no,
Well,
there's
Val
Batman.
Kilmer is chiseled for this movie. I mean, in that scene you're talking about, he's shirtless, getting bandaged. Val Kilmer can ruin somebody's day at the shape he's in this movie.
Yeah,
Um, and since we're talking about him, I mean, let's talk about Val Kilmer as Batman in this movie.
so great.
He's good. He's very good. Val Kilmer is very good as Batman in this movie. He has one of the best Batman voices. It's
Mm-hmm.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
In the first scene, when he climbs up in the helicopter, you need help, Harvey. I was like, oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Love that. Or that line that I can stop you. Or
yeah,
when he goes into his office at Wayne Enterprises and goes, lock
yeah,
chair.
yeah.
He's got a great Batman growl. It's very
What
good.
is that? The line? Bats aren't rodents, Doctor.
That's our rodents, doctor. He's got this quiet intensity that I'm super into. And I know that they used his bat suit as the one for Robert Pattinson to screen test in
Same with
for the
same
Batman.
with Christian Bale.
Same with Christian
If you go
Bale.
back and look at the his
Oh,
test screening,
is it
it's the
that suit?
yeah.
Okay. I I notice some similarities in Robert Pattinson's Batman voice that I do with Val Kilmer's, and I'm wondering if he took inspiration from that.
Dude, he's still my favorite Batman. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like so far, I mean, you know, Pattinson does some amazing things, but Pattinson's Bruce Wayne is so.
Josh, you.
But I think that like so Val Kilmer, like I was a fan of his before. Maybe that's what it is. But even just watching this movie the other day, I'm like, there's just so much he's doing here, in my opinion. Like, the thing for me is above everybody else, I always feel like Val Kilmer plays. I'm always Batman and I dress up Bruce as Bruce Wayne. I don't think anybody else ever does that. They say it and they talk about it, but they don't do it. You know what I mean? And I think that there's something about what he's doing that weird like veneer of Bruce Wayne is always on top of Batman when he's Bruce Wayne. And it kind of cracks me up because I was watching something the other earlier, the honest trailer for this movie, and they're like, Val Kilmer isn't charming as Bruce Wayne, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you can just see that Val Kilmer's Batman is putting up with being Bruce Wayne for when he needs to, so he can be Batman again.
Yeah. There's moments in this movie where you can tell they were trying to explore Bruce Wayne, the struggle between being Batman and being Bruce Wayne, and we know that was meant to be a bigger part of it from what we've heard about the Schumacher cut. And those are the moments in this movie that really show how dialed in Val Kilmer is with this. um I really was blown away at how much I really enjoyed his performance in rewatching it for doing this breakdown. He was really dialed in. I did did a lot of reading on this, obviously. So he accepted the role without knowing who the director was or even seeing a script. He was overshooting The Ghost in the Darkness, which is an excellent Val Kilmer movie. And if you need something of his that you want to watch, very much recommend The Ghost in the Darkness. But he was overshooting that in Africa when his agent called him and said, "Hey, they're looking at you for Batman," and he was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
just yes," which is hilarious when you get into the stories on set where him and Joel Schumacher did not like each other, did not get along at all. Schumacher, both of them claim it was the other person's fault. Do you know any of the other names they were looking at for Batman for this movie?
I don't. I can look it
So
up.
I've got it right here.
Do it.
So after losing Michael Keaton and deciding to go with a younger actor, they first made an offer to Ethan Hawke. I have mixed feelings about that. Ethan Hawke.
No.
They also looked at so Schumacher got the idea for Val Kilmer after seeing him in Tombstone, obviously.
Okay.
He was also interested in Keanu Reeves,
Mm,
uh, Alec and William Baldwin, Dean
okay.
Cain, Tom Hanks, Kurt Russell, Rafe Fiennes, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Johnny Depp.
So every actor age appropriate at that time.
Every age appropriate actor for the time. Tim Burton, because they reached out to Tim Burton. Tim Burton still like consulted
Yeah.
on parts of the production of the movie. He highly recommended Johnny Depp for Batman Bruce Wayne in this one. I like Johnny Depp. Hard pass. Keanu Reeves would go on to voice Batman in the DC League of Super Pets, which is fantastic. Ray Fiennes, of course, would go on to play Alfred in the Lego Batman movie, and Dean Cain was passed on because they were like, he's already Superman
Yeah.
on Lois and Clark. We don't want him in this. I cannot see Daniel Day-Lewis playing Batman.
No.
Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greatest living actors. Don't see it working.
I think he'd make a great Lex Luthor, but I can't see him being a hero.
Oh man.
Uh-oh, did I break your head
Hang
again?
on, hang on. I'm living in that world for a little bit. That's a fun world to live in. Daniel Day-Lewis is Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that just kind of blew my mind a little bit. I kind of like that idea.
Metropolis, I drink your milkshake.
Oh man, I'm into that. James Gunn, if I know you're listening, I know you probably already have somebody else cast, but I'm just saying. Yeah, I really like, and again, I'm a young man when this movie comes out, so this is the first thing I see Val Kilmer in, obviously, at 6 years old, and I'm super into Val Kilmer again after, because when I saw the first trailer for The Saint, I told my mom, we got to go see that. Batman's in it. Now, she didn't let me see it because that movie is not for 6-year-old kids.
Yep.
But I get fascinated with Val Kilmer even at such a young age that, like, as I got to be older, I started going back and watching Val Kilmer movies. Obviously like stuff like Tombstone. Val Kilmer nails it as Batman in this movie. It's just everything around him that's mixed.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. The movie Val Kilmer thinks he's making is the movie I want to see. He is
Absolutely.
seriously robbed of a great Batman film with this movie, and I hate it. And I also
Let me
love that that he said they asked him to come back to be for Batman and Robin, and he read the script and was
yeah.
like, the moment he saw Batman on skates, he was like, I don't want to do this movie.
Because he learned from his mistakes, because he said yes to Batman Forever without reading a script or knowing he was directing it. And then he did not get along with Joel Schumacher. And so his agent was probably like, hey, read this one before you say yes, because you didn't have a good time making Batman Forever. And it's good that he did, because he saw Batman on ice skates and said, nope, I'm out. Where would they hide? Where would they go? In his boots? That doesn't make any sense. How would they hide inside his? Is he wearing crazy platform heels? That doesn't make sense.
Which it made me laugh, because when I finally did watch Batman and Robin, I'm like, that happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So he was out fast.
he was that's maybe, if it's 5 minutes into the movie, odds are it was probably 10 pages into the script.
Yeah.
He probably got 10 pages into the script and was probably already on on the fence to begin with,
Yeah.
and was probably just like, nope, nope, I'm
Yeah.
out. Overall, the story of this movie doesn't really exist. If we
No.
want to talk story beats here, there's really not a story to this movie. There's a series of scenes that involve various DC Batman related characters. There's not really much of a plot.
No.
There's not much of a story here.
And whatever
Uh,
story did exist is on the cutting room floor again.
yeah,
Feel like a broken record in lieu of more Jim Carrey schlock, which
yeah. I know we said we weren't going to talk about the Schumacher cut a whole lot in this, but it kind of feels like we keep going back to it, and it's just because this. Yeah, it's just the stuff in here that works alludes to a movie that we didn't get to see.
yeah. Um,
Um, I don't have a whole heck of a lot else to say about this other than just this begins a long running trend in the 90s of bad movies having awesome soundtracks. Because the score by Elliot, oh, what's his last name?
hmm.
Uh
You talk
Elliot
about
Golden.
that. Okay.
Yeah, Elliot Goldenthal, who, repurposed a lot of the stuff that Danny Elfman did, put together a decent score. I mean, the score is pretty decent, but then like this in the 90s, it was real big with these movies having these like jukebox soundtracks of just,
Yeah.
pop and rock songs. And I will say this, as Batman Forever and Batman and Robin both, their mixtape soundtracks, good stuff.
Yes.
Great music on both soundtracks. I mean, we get Kiss from a Rose, one of the greatest songs ever written by Seal, is from this movie. Don't tell me your heart doesn't start beating hard when that song starts. When you're ba-da-da-da-da-da. No, you get jazzed every time you hear it. Great soundtracks. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot else to say about these movies about this movie in particular, because a lot of it just comes down to the cast.
Yeah. The big thing I will say is, I think the other thing I want to bring up is just how much better the action is in this movie. I mean, not only do they have more action scenes, you get like one or two, maybe three car chase scenes alone, but just the action and the movement of Batman. I mean, it's like some of the stunt guys were like, look, we got to lean out this suit. I don't know if it's the stunt guys or the fact that Val Kilmer is just a taller, leaner man than Michael Keaton, so they can lean the suit out, but he is able to move. And it's not just the fighting. Like, you can tell he can walk around, he can turn his head, he can interact with people and not look like he's a rubber brick. And I think that gives you get a lot better, cooler martial arts action, because that's my thing is like there's no martial arts in the previous two films. Like, he does a kick in the first movie, maybe two. In the third one he does, or the second one he does like three. He's doing spin kicks, he's doing flips. He has that great moment where he breaks up the party, comes down through, does the forward spinning flip. Like, the fact that Joel Schumacher ups the ante with the action. I mean, I know Warner Brothers probably told him he needed to, but it is ridiculous how much better Batman moves and fights in this movie from the previous two. And I would dare say, even in some of the other movies that have happened after. like, like that fight when he comes out of the elevator and fights those thugs, it's great.
It was such that whole fight is such a great homage to the 89 Batman, because we see a very similar fight up in the top of the church tower towards the end of the 89 Batman. But also he gets a great Indiana Jones moment in that, where he breaks up the party, where he lands and the guy comes at him and does crazy martial arts, and then he just kicks him in the face.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, to quote Tommy Lee Jones, I cannot sanction your buffoonery. I have things to do, people to save. The action sequences in this movie are insane, and especially when you look at the previous two movies, like Batman and Batman Returns are not action movies. This is an action movie.
Yeah.
There's fighting, there's martial arts, there's explosions, there's cool gadgets. I also like that they simplified the gadgets for this movie, to just good effective use of grappling hooks and batarangs. But I will say the grappling hook kind of becomes the accidental star of both Schumacher movies, because most of the big gadget stunts involve grappling hooks.
Yeah.
Um, and and the only thing I'll say about the opening action sequence, as cool as it is, bullshit that grappling hook. The thing with the safe, the sequence with the safe is stupid. I will say this.
Yes.
I love everything about that opening action sequence, but the thing with the safe is stupid. The way that ends, where it just where they just reverse the footage from the first scene, it's pretty stupid. That's the only thing I'll say about that.
It
But
defies physics.
it defies, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, the action in this movie, I read when I was reading up on this, they made over 100 different bat suits. Over 100 different bat suits, because they were like, we're gonna use these for all kinds of stunts and action sequences. So they to quote Batman Begins, they had plenty of spares.
Yeah. And I think that's where, when you get to the MCU and they're making a suit that will do everything, it helps. But no, I that was my big thing, because Rumble in the Bronx comes out in 96. And that's the Jackie Chan movie that's ridiculous, but it changes the landscape of action films in American cinema for the next 8 or 10 years. To horribleness, to my what I would say. But the fact that this movie happens before that film comes and has the level of action it does, I think is amazing. And yeah, it's what makes me love this movie. Val Kilmer, the action, all the Batman-ness of the Batman. It's what I watch. I go back and watch it. And but again, like, Val Kilmer's my favorite, but I can't defend the film because there's everything else.
Yeah, it's Batman Forever is it's an interesting movie. It's and watching it again, after 20 years and not seeing it, watching it as an adult, I could find a lot of new things to appreciate about this movie. And it's obviously one of Matt enjoys already had a longer enjoyment of it than I have, and so now I can kind of see where he's coming from on a lot of things. I get why Val Kilmer is your favorite Batman, because he's really good in this movie. Um, so that's what we think of Batman Forever, guys. It's if you haven't watched it in a long time, it's really easy to rope this in with Batman and Robin and just kind of dismiss them both. If you haven't watched Batman Forever in a while, give it a shot. It's on Max. Take an evening or an afternoon or whatever and watch it while you're eating lunch or dinner or something, and you might find some refreshed enjoyment, some things to enjoy about this movie, because I certainly did. And of course, we want to hear what you guys have to say about it, so make sure you let us know. You can find the show on Twitter at We Are the Batman. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
You find me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
That is going to do it for this week's episode of We Are the Batman. We'll be back again next month with a new Batman breakdown, and next week with a brand new episode of the show. Until then, make sure you guys join us next time. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.
Bye-bye.